So we'll give you a brief demo of how it works in Codeborne. How do we do it? Because there are not too many people that we know outside of Codeborne or previous employees of Codeborne who do pair programming. So yeah, it works almost like this, or like this, or even like this. Actually, the analogy of driver and navigator is like the classical analogy in pair programming. So it's often the answer to the question, how can you program at the same time? So usually actually it happens not at the same time, but turn by turn.
We can change roles. At any moment of time, one of programmers is kind of driver, and another is navigator. And they switch roles all the time.
And this is the ideal case. So in the end, we'll show you a small table for advanced pair programming, which kind of other roles can appear in the pair and how to solve them. So this is like the real world picture from our previous office. So in here down below, you have probably seen that we have one computer, two screens, two keyboards for one computer, and always a pair of people sitting next to each other on the same computer and looking at different screens but seeing the same picture, basically, the same code. So this is for comfort, so we don't need to be too close together. So we can comfortably sit at a distance. That's why we have everyone have their own personal space.
We have special white tables, like this.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah,
2
like
meters.
in the previous office, we had like 2 meter wide tables, and here we also have one continuous table, basically, so we can rearrange the pairs and positions, so it's comfortable. And yeah, and we have 2 keyboards, so we don't need to throw the keyboard back and forth. So again, for convenience. So another picture of people pair programming, and we don't have any personal computers. So we have our laptops and our phones, but all the workstations, they are shared. So today I can sit here with Andrei, and next day I can sit with Erik on another table, another PC. So basically there is nothing personal about each PC. So I don't put photos of my dog next to the screen and something like that. So this is for environment for work, and then at 5 p.m. we go home, and then we have pictures of our dogs, basically. So yeah, and now we'll try to show it.
Try to demonstrate how pair programming actually works.
Like percentage-wise, how often one works independently, or how much of their time one works independently versus in pair with a peer?
Basically, we don't have independent workstations, and the rule of thumb is that all the code that we commit should be written by 2 persons, basically, okay, or reviewed at least like by a second person. So it meaning that sometimes we do work independently. If I am pairing with Andrei on some task or project and he gets sick tomorrow, then most likely I will not get a replacement for one day. And
this is a real life picture. As you see, this man is the single, and that woman is single. Probably because the second one is sick,
or maybe went for a coffee or something else. So basically, yeah, this works.
But most of the time, as a rule, we do program in pairs.
And actually it's fun. So writing code by yourself is really boring, I would say. After you have pair programmed for many years, you don't want to write code by yourself. That's boring. You don't have anyone to chat to. So you need to put a teddy bear and chat to him. Hey, hello, teddy bear. I feel so lonely, but I still need to write this code. But let's well.
It's basically the same.
Of course, everything is the same. If you have looked at on this floor, we have toilets with only one thing, but on the lower floor we have other toilets specially designed for us. So it's a joke, obviously.
Let's practice. we decided to show pair programming on some real project. It's an open source project which our company develops amongst others, and we decided just to demonstrate to add some funny feature to the Selenite project. So let's start from cloning the project. And
Everything's fair, no cheating.
yeah, let's make it from the scratch. So what we are doing, we are cloning the project, and we are going to add a new feature to the Selenite, a feature named Hello World, just for demonstration.
Yeah,
Production feature.
it's a way we can say it's a production feature for now, because obviously we cannot show you the code that we're writing for the customers, so we need to have an open source project for the demo. So yeah, let's import the Gradle projects, blah, 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 something like this, and it will download the dependencies. And obviously many people ask us, what if I use IDE, and Andrei is really big fan of NetBeans? So how can we program together? So the obvious question is that all the tools should be standardized on a team. Even if it's a team that is not pair programming anyway, you should have exactly the same code style, exactly the same tools, so that you can have the collective code ownership. So let's see if it's already available. Let's look, while maybe it works, let's look a little bit to the Selenite quick start. So if you haven't used the Selenite before, you can watch the video by this gentleman. Yeah, this is basically how do you use it. So it's a
Selenite is a library for writing automated UI tests. Browser tests. It has very simple syntax, so you can just open a browser with command open, then find some element by name, by ID, by class name, and so on, and do some actions with these elements. So for example, type some text into the input field or click buttons. That's it. Very simple syntax. And we are going to add a new method here. Instead of setValue, we want to add method hello.
So this is
just to show.
Yeah, our customer decided that he wants to be very polite, and even in the testing framework we need to be really polite, so we use add the hello methods to Selenite. Contributed to the open source project, and maybe the main maintainer will accept the pull requests eventually. Okay, so we have now the project here.
We do use test-driven development. It means that we need to start from test.
Yeah, sure. So if I'm not starting the test, then Andrei would stop me right away. He would tell me, you should not. What if I want to write in Kotlin?
I don't think that this is a good idea, because not because Kotlin has some bad features, but because there is a big.
Because we just saw it doesn't work as expected.
Yeah. But actually, Selenite has a big user base who are used to write in Java, and I guess it's a good idea to maintain it in Java.
Actually, the thing is that when we pick a new project with a pair or with a team, we are free to decide which technology to use, which programming language to use. For example, for a new project, I would use Kotlin, but because we're contributing to an existing project, probably doesn't make sense to introduce a new dependency. So let's write it in plain old Java, unfortunately. So I am starting with a first test. So standard IDE and stuff. Let's call it hello, and let's test it with Google. What do you think? Google is a perfect site that we can use for abusing. It has so many data centers and stuff, so it will not die if we'll run all our builds with the real Google. So let's, oops, that's wrong open. So Selenite has its open, let's see. I think it's like this, yeah?
Yeah.
So let's statically import it, blah, blah, blah. And let's use the HTTPS Google.EE. So let's run it. We have already some code. Let's run it and see if it fails. So, oh,
Start.
I forgot to show you a very important slide. So, because there are some things that how pair programming works, we also try to use test-driven development, of course, because tests first ensure that you have the good test coverage later, and you're you can still maintain your project after a couple of years. So, but to do test-driven development with pair programming, there is a trick called Pingpong programming, which is basically a couple of steps. So, for example, I write the failing test first. So, like in TDD, you start with red. Then I pass the keyboard. Instead of implementing it myself, I pass the keyboard to my pair. And then he becomes the driver. And then he implements the code, makes the test pass, makes the test green, red, green, like in TDD. And then, only then, we also can refactor it. So it can be either Andrei or me. So depending at what point we pass the keyboard. And then we again, then we pass the keyboard again, and then no. Then Andrei writes a failing test for me, and then I make it pass. So it's like ping pong. So, and I try to write more difficult test for Andrei. Andrei tries to write a more difficult test for me. And this is what makes actually this all fun. So, but still, let's run our code. We already have something. So, let's see. We'll compile the whole of Serenade. How long does it compile?
It's not really big.
It's not really big, like a couple of classes. Small toy project.
Yes.
We just, first version, we extracted it from one of our projects, one of our first projects in Codeborne. So we wrote it for ourselves. So you probably have seen that Google has flashed, and then it was closed automatically because we don't do anything else besides opening. So we have a green test. That's wrong. I need to have a failing test for Andrei. So let's do it. So the Selenade, we need to find an element. So Andrei, maybe no. How do I find the?
This is element with name Q.
So you have made so many presentations about Serenade. So Andrei knows that this is
Google so many times.
Name equals Q is the query string in Google. So
and put dot.
Yeah.
You will see all available methods in Selenade that actually we have. Set value, shoot a value, and so on.
Yeah, but
click.
We don't want to use them. So we
want to add other methods.
We want to be polite, and we want to have a really useful method in the framework called hello. So it doesn't compile. So we use idea to add it, and we go back, and now we have code, and then let's run it. See if I have a failing test for Andrei. So, and we open Google, and it fails.
A failing test.
So the reason of failure is that unknown Serenade method. Hello, what the hell?
This is exactly what we need. We have a red test, and now it's my turn. We switch roles. Now I'm driver, and Anton is navigator. So
I would click on a stack trace, I think. I think stack trace will provide us the hint where to go next.
Yeah, exactly. This place says that we don't have a method named hello. And as I see here, we have some big map of different methods. And we can add another method.
Well, that's cool. I think we can copy one of these rows very easily.
Why not? Copy paste is a great thing.
Just change it to hello, and it should work.
Actually, probably we already have green test.
Think so?
If yes, we can switch keyboards again.
Yeah,
yes,
green.
We have green test, but next step is I have to write a red test for Anton this time. So I'm going.
So I was hoping that he will implement everything already, but he was smarter than me. So
So it's actually not funny. It's really important because by writing the next test, failing test, I'm going to provide the fact that this functionality is actually tested. It actually works. I need to.
Yeah, for now we just have method hello that does we don't know what. We need to check what it does.
I need to add some check here to be sure that it did something. Select has method should have, and for I guess we need to have value.
It's good that my peer already knows all the API, so I don't have to know anything.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's
At
cool.
this moment,
yeah,
we are.
Import the static, so it's shorter.
I'm looking for keys on your keyboard.
Nice.
Okay. And I guess I did a test for you.
So, and do I have a
Yes.
failing test?
Exactly.
Yes, I do. So it's empty, nothing there. Oh my God, so now I need to be smart. So I need to actually go and implement the stuff. So I'm going to comments, going here, and I will think that this get search criteria is not something, is not exactly right. So I'll create a new comment. Let's put it somewhere, don't care right now. So yeah, implement methods. It's good to use a statically typed method, the language. So sorry for you Ruby developers.
JavaScript coders.
And now we have the command, and of course, if I just run it like this, then the command is still there, but it still doesn't work. So
Yeah.
I think unfortunately I need to do something here. So I need to actually write hello world here. I hope this is the way you typed it. So let's now run it. So. And yeah, green.
Cool.
So now I can make it hard for Andrei. So I know that I have seen Serenade framework somewhere, and I know that you can chain methods so that you don't need to repeat this. So I'm refactoring now. So let's refactor it. And as we have the green test, and I'm pretty sure that I'm not breaking anything. Yeah, and I think that I am.
Yeah.
So the problem with the hello method that Andrei has generated, it doesn't return the correct type. So let's go here. Let's see, we are inside of a class called selenate element. Yeah, we can see it. A lot of methods here. So let's go back down and just return it so we can chain it nicely. So yeah, let's
Now
see.
this test
Whoa.
compiles. And
Now it compiles, now I run it. Let's see if Andrei can now do the rest of the job.
Yes.
So, and
Yoo-hoo.
yeah, we have a failing test.
Okay,
so
thank you. Again, we're switching roles again.
I can now go grab a coffee, or I can help him to actually implement it. We have null pointer exception.
Yeah,
I already seen it.
cannot.
Yeah, you're just
Cannot match. Okay.
Just- yes,
Okay.
the null pointer
We got
here.
null pointer here because I know because this.
Use control, yeah.
Because this returns null. I believe I know that probably return proxy will help. How can I know that it helps? I can start test again.
Yeah.
We will see.
So that was too easy, I think.
Yeah, it was too easy. Question?
If you run only the test at hand over and over, how do you then deal with regression? If you just change the code that you didn't own at this point, well, actually, well, you
Usually we feel that if you're changing the code still, it's not a black box testing, so you know what should you run. So sometimes you rerun the methods. In most cases, you rerun the tests, all tests for the class. And but in some cases, you know, if you have changed several classes, maybe you need to rerun tests for the whole package or all tests. Depends. So usually, if you make a mistake, then the continuous integration server will catch you and beat you for that anyway. So not a big deal.
But whoever makes mistake, then fixes it.
Sure. But also, if I'm making the mistake, I have my partner to stop me, and vice versa. So this is the point of pair programming. So what do we have?
So I have implemented your feature. I made your test green, and now I need to add more tests or more checks to make this test right again. And I guess that this hello method is not actually what our customer asks.
Yeah, actually, I recall when we were sitting with the customer on the meeting, he told us that we need to greet not only the world, but also some other things.
Sure. Actually, it's exactly written in Jira requirements.
Not Jira, please.
Okay, actually, I guess that our customer does want to greet anything, and I will do it. So, hello, whatever.
And still doesn't compile, so I'm not accepting not compiling code.
Sure, it doesn't compile, so I will add an argument. Now it compiles, and I will run the whole test this time.
Yeah. The whole class. Maybe we'll add new ones later, so it will be easy to rerun it.
As you see, UI tests are actually quite slow. They need to run a new browser every time to check if this browser is up to date and so on. That's why, as a rule, we actually write unit tests, many of unit tests, and this time we write UI tests just for demonstration.
Let me clean this up after you, before I continue. I see there are a lot of unused imports, so I will clean it up, and
Okay.
now we can continue working. So, so I need to implement it. It said hello world again, so I need to again go into the implementation and start changing the actual code. Oh my god, that's so boring to change the actual code. So I guess we get some, what is the signature here? We get some arguments here. Actually, we need to always also get rid of this, but before that, I still need to get the green test. So, because otherwise, I don't know if I broke it again. Yeah, in like the example thing, or if we had more time, I would write DEVCLUB here, and that would be the easiest way to pass the test, and then Andrei would write another test. But here, because we don't have much time, we do it like this. Actually, in reality, we often do it like this, but still we need to write more tests to verify that that is the correct implementation. So
I believe it's clear now.
Should be. If you have spelled DEVCLUB twice correctly, yeah, you did.
Cool.
So,
Well, it seems that we actually have implemented the feature. Now it's demo time.
yeah, so let's demo it to our customer. Where is our customer? He's coming.
So Tit, you asked us to add another hello method to Selenite.
Yeah.
So this is how it looks like.
Yeah, this is how it looks like. Like you see, hello method, we pass DEVCLUB. We now can check that it works correctly. So let's Tit, especially for you. Let's make it like this. Hello Tit. And let's check that there is no DEVCLUB hard-coded there. So let's write it Tit. And let's now run it and demonstrate that it's all implemented.
So
demo time and hello Tit, hello DEVCLUB. Works.
Good.
Are you satisfied?
Yeah, but how about with the next input, you say goodbye?
That's probably a good idea. We haven't thought about that before. Yeah, really.
It's kind of late as well.
Really, yeah. Let's do that. Let's do the goodbye part as well. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you. See you next time. So.
okay, well, this is what actually happens often when we show a new functionality to the customer. He comes with new ideas, which are sometimes really stupid, or sometimes smart. It depends. Sometimes we need to implement it.
Actually, before I start implementing it, we have green tests, so it's time to refactor. Let's do a small refactoring, small cleanup. Let's introduce the setup methods and move this duplication here, at least a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. And now we can write a new test for the new requirement that teeth, so goodbye. So let's implement it like that. So if we run hello twice, again, for example, teeth, we say the last value stays goodbye. By the way, we don't need to test the first value again because we have a separate test for it. So we say hello twice and it says goodbye. So let's run all the tests. I really hope that my assumption is that the only one of them fails. This is really important also while pair programming to voice your assumptions, so that you know if you're like moving in the correct direction. And yeah, hello teeth did not change into goodbye teeth. So you have the honor of implementing the new feature.
We again switch roles, and I'm going to satisfy this test. So I guess that I need to, in this method, I need to check if this element already contains.
Let me teach you to close this thing, you know, to close this thing down so that you can see more. You can you can press Alt 4 twice, and now
cool. Alt 4.
very quickly, yeah. Very
Cool, thank you. I guess we need to check if this element already has some value. I guess I can use this one. And if it starts with hello. Let me think what I need to do.
Let's just replace hello with goodbye. I think that would be cool implementation.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Let's set a new value.
Yeah, previous value, replace. Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah.
Sure.
Hello.
And put goodbye instead of hello. Like
and
this one.
Don't forget the else, otherwise we will overwrite the stuff.
All right.
So.
Right.
So yeah. Yeah, great. So let's run it.
What do you think?
I think it can work. Definitely can work. Yeah, it works.
Cool. Okay, but obviously it's not good implementation, right?
Yeah, you know, now it's my turn, and I now start thinking.
It's my turn. I need
Is
to
it?
write a red test.
Yeah,
now.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were like thinking it's probably not, or it will probably not work in all the cases. Let's try to break it.
This is a moment where test-driven development is really good. We are forced to think, what is the problem? What is the case that is not supported right now? We need to think about another test which would fail.
Well, somebody's calling. Oh, sure. Yeah, show it. Yeah.
It's sometimes
Yes. Let's do it up, yeah. Yes. We're working on your implementation, no? Yeah.
Something like that, or example for processors or for mom, and he need to intercept and go away. At some moment he will get back. Okay, and I need to think.
Yeah, I assure you it will all work tomorrow. No problem.
So what would be the case which will fail? I guess we need to write something like. Oh.
So you know, Teat called, but
well,
never mind.
What happens?
Yeah, he just asked, is it ready already or not? So I told him it will be ready tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And
so,
meanwhile, while we talked, I created another test. I hope it will be green. I hope it will be red now.
Okay, so no interruption for you. Yes.
What shall happen actually? I mean, if one of the member of the teams leaves.
Yeah, the second one continues with the flow. So actually he doesn't lose the flow despite me being interrupted. And then I come and I have time to adjust and he's talking to me so I know where he is. So this is the thing. And the same happens if somebody goes and grabs a coffee or like whatever.
Like, yeah, this is one of biggest points of pair programming, that we never lose focus. One of us can interrupt, but we pause, almost never lose focus, except if we pause. So we actually have failing test.
You have failing
the
test.
actual value is good by deed, but expected value is.
Yeah.
I can
We have screwed it up, so let's fix the implementation.
Let me show. Good by alcohol should be.
Yeah.
This is expected value.
We have screwed it up, so let's go.
Switch roles. I am navigator.
So I think this like hacky implementation wasn't good after all. So let's use a dump implementation here instead. Goodbye. And see, this one should pass, I guess. It's not the most beautiful code, but still, if we get it working, we can refactor it later, because the test will show us if it works.
Actually, it is beautiful.
Yeah, it works. now I can refactor it a little bit, so maybe...
We can make it shorter.
Yeah, maybe the cooler thing would be to extract this variable and call it like greeting, and actually not keep it as boolean but string, and see if it starts with hello, then we use goodbye, otherwise we use hello. And now we can have only one call here. So we write like a trivial refactoring. Yeah. And now we have our test to verify that we haven't broken anything. So now we are running all our tests, 3 of them, and or 4 of them. If they all work, then our refactoring was successful. Yeah, great success. So actually,
I guess we kind of did our work.
yeah.
We can commit now.
Yeah, no, actually we could have committed it earlier. So basically that was it. That was the basic demonstration of how it works, and we really do it every day like this. It really is fun. It really produces better code, and most of our customers who actually first, if they learn that we do pair programming, they kind of hesitating. They say, you're probably twice as slow as the others. But then they see how it works. They are much more happier about that. So there are some companies in Estonia who, after like finishing the contract with us, they were looking for other companies who can also do pair programming for them, so that they can have the same level of quality and everything. By the way, if you're interested in trying this out in reality, we are hiring, so that's kind of obvious. But
I believe you can just come to our office for one day and just try it, pair programming in real life.
Doesn't it require that the pair is at approximately the same level?
Good question. This is the next
Yeah.
slide. Is about
so now we come here to the advanced pair programming. And this is actually a small reminder that was put together by Erik after we read one interesting blog post. And it's actually, the thing is that it's not always easy to do it, if the levels are different. And the best scenario, and there are actually different kinds of roles that can happen in a pair. And the best case is that you have the driver and co-pilot or navigator, and you're both more or less of the same level. You're all supporting each other, constantly switching, and you're like flowing. So in real life, it happens. Then pair programming is also really good, for example, to take new people on board to the project, for example, or teach more junior developers, or except for the knowledge exchange that we can have with Andrei, as a same level developers. We can still teach each other tips or tricks all the time, but when I'm mentoring a junior, this is a different thing. And here there are some of the, where did it disappear? Maybe they did something? No?
it seems so, yeah. You can just
Okay,
say.
I can just say, so one of the style is called the backseat driver. So the backseat driver is that when, for example, the level is not the same, then, for example, I'm mentoring Andrei. So the best case is not that I write everything and Andrei watches and learns the stuff. The best case is that I sit to the back of the car and I let him to navigate. And I'm a co-pilot, so I'm teaching him, but I'm not. I'm programming, but using his hands basically. This is the much better to teach a newcomer in the project or at all. And then the rally here is the best case. Then both are experienced already in the project and overall. And then goes the tour, for example. The tour is that, is when one guy is touring, showing the tour of the code to the other guy. So this style of pair programming, it can happen. It happens pretty often when, for example, Andrei wants me to show, or he shows me something new somewhere, or like brings me up to date with the project if I was on vacation or something. So this is called the tour. So he shows me, I watch it. So if tour happens too long, then it's already a bad situation, because in the tour I'm passive, so I'm not remembering as much as I could, and most likely if it continues for too long, then we need to switch to the backseat driver situation. So Andrei goes to the backseat and controls my hands verbally. So, and then the worst thing that can happen after the tour is, for example, the disconnected pair. A disconnected pair is that when one is giving the tour and is driving, and the navigator fell asleep or is not following anymore. So it also can happen, and even with good and experienced developers, like distraction, like whatever, sleepiness, like, or whatever. And in this case also, like the role of the navigator, or the one who has disconnected, is to actually say stop and try to actually fix the situation. So these are like the examples. I'm sure there are more, but these are like the main ones. And here, the important outcome from here is that if you feel that you're in a wrong style of the pair programming, you need to think or discuss with your partner how to get back on track to the correct pair programming.
Have you considered what's the optimal amount of hours for pair programming per day? You are using 100% for pair programming, but maybe the optimal time is somewhere in 60%. Like, did you consider if make some tests?
Depends. We don't know how to measure it. So usually it also depends on different people, I think. So some people who like get tired more easily or something, they can maybe agree with the pair or something.
The human brain functions a little bit different when you sit alone and when you sit in pair. Maybe if you see the same code in two different variants, then it will be more beneficial for the quality.
Maybe. Or we have tried different versions, and sometimes actually when somebody is sick or on vacation, you still get to work alone, and you have breaks, you have the lunch time, and you actually sometimes you really want to like go deeper with some topic, and you agree with your peer. Okay, you continue. I go and Google it more, so that I will gather some more information that we can use later together. So and it happens quite a lot actually. Quite a lot of the time, especially when the peer stumbles on something that none of the both knows the solution right away. So we start Googling very often separately, and then whoever finds the solution first actually announces it, then we look at it, and then maybe we Google more, or maybe we accept it and go further. So actually it's not like you're all the time sitting and writing code. I think
I believe a good practice is to experiment as you wish, Google as you wish, but to write the final version of production code together.
Yeah, sometimes you can try something out. like agree. And in Codeborne we also have these R&D days, so all people can actually one day, like every 2 weeks, we can have one day that when we do anything by ourselves.
Research and
yeah, research and development, like learn something or develop some toy project or whatever, and then next day come back into the pair and maybe have some new knowledge and stuff. So.
Question?
One question, maybe it's a management question, maybe I missed something. If you have a new task, and you have a few of developers with the same skill, how will you decide who will be working?
What if we?
You have a task, yeah? And you have a queue of developers who have the
Who,
same level.
whom do we put to the project?
Yes.
So we take many things into consideration. We take the availability of people, like we actually, I think during our 8 years of existence, we probably, maybe only a couple of times we had some time when some of the developers don't have any assignments. So it's really a rare case. So what we do, we see, like if we have a new project, we see who gets available soon, whom we can assign. So usually it's that way. We also take into consideration the experience with different kinds of technologies or the domains. And we also take into account who hasn't been working with whom yet, or maybe like whom do we want to put together. So sometimes we think that maybe we want somebody to mentor another person, so we put them together, or we like vice versa. We see that we need to have really strong pair, so we put like the best guys on some of the more difficult things. Or sometimes we have this daily stand-up meeting, we just shout and say, hey, who wants to, we have a new project starting, who wants to join it? So it's a lot of different options.
You spoke a lot about that you speak a lot with each other.
Sure.
But to have one long desk, don't you bother the next pair to you? I would be really annoyed if somebody chatted away next to me all the time.
This is a really common question. Yeah. People often ask it.
And it happens that we get bored. Sometimes you hear something really interesting from the next peer and you turn to them and say, hey, maybe you can do it like this, or maybe I know this thing. Or sometimes there is like somebody like they are discussing some anecdotes or something, you also join this discussion. Or
the short answer is that it's not a problem.
To answer that is the big distinction here is if you're working alone, then I understand your emotion is that if there are other people chatting around you, then it will affect you. If you're also working in a pair, then you will automatically focus to the voice of your pair, basically, and you will ignore the rest. This almost comes like automatically. And what I've noticed is sometimes when I end up working alone, like my pair is sick or something, then I will notice other pairs talking. But when I'm working with my own pair, then I don't notice them at all. So it sometimes happens that if someone needs to work alone for a short period of time, then they put on a pair of like earphones or something. But when you're working in a pair, then the rest of the pairs, the chatter doesn't affect you. Of course, there is like a common understanding that we keep the voices relatively low so that we don't start shouting. But nevertheless, it's about whether you have to concentrate on your own or whether you work together with someone.
Yeah, that's true. I have also noticed that, yeah. And sometimes it does happen that the noise level in the office rises when everyone tries to talk over the others, and at that time somebody will shout, psst, and then it will fades away.
So it sometimes happens, but it's not really often. It's not a real problem. My answer. Yeah.
Maybe like a bit unrelated question about testing. Do you always or kind of rather usually approach test first, or there are any cases when you just first focus on the implementation and then on the development?
As a rule, we always write tests first. There are some exceptions, but as a rule.
As we are also like normal human beings, sometimes we forget. That's why we have a peer for, to remind. And of course it happens then there is some like research kind of task at hand and nobody knows even how to write a test because you don't know what you're doing yet, so you need to investigate first, and then you're not writing test first, but still it's good then the code, like some sample code that you have produced during research is best if you delete it and then write the test first and the real codes again.
Just a side question. Should it be something that should be already taught in the school?
Sure.
Actually,
I have tried it. I'm teaching at the Technical University. And I have tried it, but especially the student is still young, out of the middle school from somewhere. And he's just learning the features of the language. It doesn't matter if it's C#, the Java, whatever.
Still, but in the university, what I have noticed, I also have taught a lot that students very often, they try quite normally, they sit together and start exploring something in pairs. I think in university you don't even have to sell it to them. They already know that it's a better way of doing things in many cases.
Yeah, pair programming, yeah, that comes automatically, somewhat.
Yeah.
There are limits because they have to go home or one of them goes there and starts to work in the middle of the night and then it falls down. But yeah, in the classroom, yeah, they often pair up or even more than two people at a time.
Test-driven development.
But test-driven development especially.
Sure, it should be, it must be.
For test-driven, if you teach it that way, then they can probably understand it. But yeah, if they're still learning the language, still you can actually show them the basics using test-driven. But it's up to you that you need to like enforce it to them, because
yeah,
otherwise.
I can beat them,
but otherwise, you know, they are always still using some println or something all the time. So they are testing their code, but they don't know how to fixate these tests in the code so that it will not break later.
Automate
You just need to show them the other way around. So you are not writing the print, but you are writing that assert equals this output is like this. It's almost the same. That is about like when we are pair programming, I told you that it's important to voice your assumptions. So it's the same with test-driven development. So if students are pairing, they are voicing their assumption that I think that this piece of code produces this kind of result, so let's check it. Of course, they need to know syntax first, a little bit. There was a question behind you a couple of times already.
The pair programming is so effective. Why so little people are doing this for companies?
People are conservative. You know, it's one thing, and the second thing that at first impression of everyone is that yeah, it's going to be twice as expensive. But in reality is completely different, but you need to try it out to start believing it. Nobody believes it until they actually see it.
Actually, there is one more point. Like, not actually everyone is suitable for pair programming, let's be honest. We are IT people sometimes are really introverted and you want to do it yourself. Sometimes you don't trust people, sometimes you don't love them, but like,
this is partly true and partly I think it's legend. It's again the thing that people made themselves to believe. Yeah, we are only 30 because we are not trying to like grow too fast, because otherwise we can lose our culture that we have built already.
Actually, I believe that we have a lot of introverts behind us, between us, and who actually do use pair programming. It's not problem.
The truth is, if you don't believe in it, then it doesn't work for you, and vice versa.
That's true for
if you come with the attitude that it doesn't work, then it doesn't work for you. You must want to make it work for you. It's definitely, it's a, like anything, it's a set of compromises. You have to agree with someone. So that agree to work on the same thing, to discuss things. It's just that you have, most of us who work alone have got used to working in a different way. So do you want to change, do you want to do that or not? Because definitely there are a lot of good developers who get relatively good results working alone. And so it's like a leap of faith whether you want to do it, but it's definitely, if you go with the belief that it doesn't work for you, then it won't work for you. It's not like a magic bullet there.
Let me rephrase your question. If sport is so effective for keeping you healthy, why are so few people who do export? Absolutely the same.
But what's your experience? How long does it take to change from like this lone star developer to like a pair programmer? What's your experience?
I don't think it's a change. You know, it's like you just start working like this, and you can be one day you can be lone star, and then second day you can be a pair programmer. It's like I don't think that there is like a long transition period. At least it wasn't for me.
Yeah, there is no transition period.
In your regular practices, how often do you rearrange parts? How often do you show your teams?
Good question. We try to switch pairs as often as possible. Sometimes we switch. In some projects, we switch pairs like every day. In other projects, every week. So they decide depending on the project, on the people, and so on. But what we strive to switch often. Yes.
Okay.
It's really good for like knowledge exchange. Different people can exchange their knowledge.
And another question, I'm kind of buying into this one. So how do you, for example, if you have on your team people with different level of competence, and for example, how do you then motivate less experienced programmers through pair programming to keep up, and how do you not make their life at work a nightmare?
Good question. Actually, it's a question that I often hear. How can work together experienced programmers and like junior programmers who knows nothing? And actually, pair programming is very good way to teach the junior programmer. He can we can apply one of these techniques, kind of backseat driver. Junior programmers start doing all the things, and the navigator will speak to him what to do, and junior will teach really quickly any technology.
I think another answer is respect. And since you are working on this task together, then the best way to get the most effective result is to work on this together. And one of the things that when you're working alone that you don't have to do is to think about others. So yes, this is one extra thing that you do need to do in working in pairs. And definitely we haven't seen that, but if we would see someone treating their pair badly, then that would be an immediate no for being in our team. Basically, you have to respect the others. It is not a competition behind the table. It is a teamwork of going forward together. So if someone there are definite situations when people get into a heated discussion about some solution, but that's a different thing when people of relatively equal level don't agree on something, but then they sort it out usually themselves still, and they go on but as a rule, definitely you have to respect the other, not depending on how junior or how senior you are. You are in this together and you have to work it out.
Yeah, this one, I understand. My question was rather, for example, I am a junior engineer in the pair, and then I have my pair, I play in a backseat driver role, and then they instruct me, kind of explain their idea about how to solve it, which I didn't have one of my own, and then I just follow the instructions, and then maybe at some point I feel kind of unimportant, or I feel, well...
I think when you're actually doing that, you feel that you are learning, I think. You are not feeling that you're unimportant. You are feeling that you are learning. Next time you can do it yourself. And actually, some of our employees actually came to us completely outside of the IT. So we had this school of programming happening where we have 4 or 5 people who actually came to us who had completely no experience with programming before joining us. And it also worked.
So you also onboarded these people through pair programming?
Yeah, sure. Initially they were pair programming with among themselves, so while they are learning, and then at some time we started more mentoring them, and then it was like already pairing on a real projects with some experienced developers.
Okay.
Yes. Basically, it seems that. Sorry. Yeah, what I think or what I feel from the viewpoint of the business is that this is a methodology how to get more out of the people. Like if I'm working alone, I'm working for 8 hours, but out of those 8 hours, let's say 3 hours is really productive, and the rest of the 5 hours is just fun feeling. If I'm paired up with somebody, then we get like 6 hours of productive work altogether. But now when I'm in pair, my partner is constantly beating me. And at the end of the day, he gets like 5 hours out of me, I will get 5 hours out of them, and the sum put together is bigger than the 2 guys sitting alone.
Yeah,
that's why you get the better results.
Yeah, it's
but at the end of the day, the program is that when I go home at 5 o'clock, I haven't programmed for 3 hours and watched 5 hours of cat pictures. Now I have fucking hell programmed for 6 hours over the day, and now I'm going home, I'm dead.
First, how else do you watch cat pictures if somebody else is watching?
There is great satisfaction in actually getting things done.
Yeah, for sure.
This is the reward. There is actually you get things working, and this is both through the test-driven that you see that this actually works, and the feedback from the test, which is another story in which you can do alone. But then, like keeping this pace that you can actually go through the, let's say, 8-hour workday with actually producing stuff and then go home. Yes, it takes energy from you. And what I've heard with new people when they've joined us, especially like the first days and first weeks, they go home exhausted, and when all the learning but that goes away at some point. You get used to that. It becomes routine, and then but the satisfaction of getting things done, actually getting results and presenting them to the business customer who is satisfied them, that is actually a really good reward.
True. And actually, I believe when you are watching Keks pictures, you also are tired because you are afraid.
Wasted your time.
You are afraid, or because you don't want the other can see it. You don't want the customer to see that you did nothing, and so on. So you are not satisfied.
And of course, sometimes with a break, we go and play this like football and stuff, table football or whatever. So it's not as bad as it sounds.
You also do it in pairs, right?
Yeah, we do it actually. 4. The football is usually 4 people. It's even better than pair.
There was one more question.
I have 2 questions. First is how long do you stay in flow? You said you don't break the flow if you kind of take a flow so how long can you stay in flow? Do you stay in the flow for, let's say, 3 hours in a row, then take a lunch break, and then 3 hours more?
Yeah, I think it's like it can be like up to 3 hours at a time. Yeah, because if it's more than usually, otherwise there will be some other break or lunch. Yeah, as you said.
It depends. The main point is that people can decide when they want to make a break. Probably after 1 hour.
I'm just asking how long do you usually do?
Yeah, I think 3 hours is sounds like reasonable for me. Like.
Second question is similar to his theory. If you pair program or if you program alone, when can you? I assume you've done both, and you're also used to pair programming. At the end of 8 hours, when do you get more exhausted? Can you do 12 hours of pair programming? Can you do 12 hours of single programming?
Actually, I even know the answer. I have participated in Garage, this thing, and I know that with pair programming we could do it longer than without pair programming. I think if I'm doing it alone, I will get tired more easily. So I will maybe start thinking about I should be tired by this time, so maybe I need to feel sleepy, and I start to feel sleepy and these kind of things. So pair programming, I feel it will keep you active and energetic for longer.
Besides adrenaline and coffee and stuff like that, they work well for a long time, let's say for a week.
Non-stop?
I'm not doing non-stop, but let's say 5 days.
Yeah, if you work every day, then you go home, you relax, you watch your YouTube, your walk, or whatever.
Can you work 12 hours a day better? Can you work alone better, or can you work in pair better? In Friday?
I think that in Codeborne nobody works 12 hours a day. That's the first thing that we agreed. Yeah, the thing is that it's in extreme programming that we are following. Is there actually a very important thing which is called sustainable pace?
But still, I'm asking about I'm trying to quantize which one does you more. Programming or single programming.
I think
if you program in Garage 48, then you have adrenaline, then you have kind of feedback, and it kind of pushes you up.
I have an answer. I believe that you are more tired when you work alone, and the reason is that it's a well-known fact that people are tired not because they had to type a lot of, not because they need to do many factorings, but people are tired because they need to make decisions. These decisions, this is actually the thing that we are tired of every day. And when we are in pair, we can discuss all the decisions. It's much more easy to make decisions.
Yeah, less stressful, because you have discussed it. It's not only your decision that is...
The biggest point of pair programming is not that you cannot see cats. It's not that you cannot read Facebook and so on and so on. The biggest point is that you always have somebody to discuss with. Your ideas, your things, your decisions, you always have. This is the biggest point, and it's really useful.
Have you also tried programming with 3 people at a time?
Yes.
Sometimes, when you have really big problem.
It's either a really big problem or just an interesting problem. It can happen that, yeah. Oh, there was in the back.
How long have you been doing this with pair programming?
How long?
Yeah.
We've been doing it since day one in Codeborne for 8 years, and we've been doing it before that, I think, for at least 5 years in Swedbank.
And a follow-up question, so if you were given the same environment, the same pay at the end of the day, would you prefer pair programming or solo?
Or?
Solo. Like
Or solo.
Or working alone, yes.
Obviously, we do prefer pair programming. As I told you, actually, it's not fun when you are writing code alone. You feel lonely. Like after you pair it a lot, you feel the need to discuss, and you have nobody to discuss, and it actually feels bad.
Just to put things into perspective, so if you ask Anton, given the same like pay and everything, Codeborne is what Anton or let's say me think of an ideal environment for programmers to create things at. So this is not that someone else put it this way and we have to follow it. We believe that this is the best way of producing good software, so that's why we do it. It's not that someone else makes us do it. This is why this is our own stuff. But
So basically, the wrong people ask for.
But so for you the best, and for the novice programmer the best, there could be different things.
It could be. I mean, we are not keeping anyone prisoner as far as I know. So, I mean, anyone who sees that it doesn't fit them is free to leave. I mean, we have agreed that we work in this way. If there are other companies that work the other way, it's their choice, but I haven't seen people much complaining about this. So, I mean, it's most of the people say that it actually helps them. It's exactly this what Andrei said, the discussion thing, that they can discuss through the solution and arrive to a better choice.
So let it be the last question for them. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, this pair, they are organized randomly, because if you're willing to decide the people by themselves, maybe there is some preference later going, like, I prefer to work with this person more than without. I like just work with him a couple more in pair. So, do you have such kind of issues?
Do we have that people prefer to work with one person and not the other? Do you understand correctly?
Yeah, do you have such kind of situations when one person saying, like, I like to work in pair, not always this guy?
Sure, we know that some people are more buddies than the others. So of course, obviously, they want to work with somebody they already know better. But when we switch people, after 3 days, they all again are already buddies and they are going to lunch together and stuff. So
you have this approach when you especially randomizing the pairs.
Yeah, more or less randomized.
So we're actually tracking the pairs who haven't worked much together yet, and we try to put them together more. So if we have a chance. We don't enforce. It's we don't have a prison or something. So very often we also ask people, do they want it, do they like it, or whatever. If somebody doesn't work out, and it did happen maybe a couple of times during 8 years, then we can easily switch people.
From my experience, people typically want to learn new things, including want to try new people.
Thank you.
And if they don't, they are not the right people. Yeah. All right, thank you guys so much. And then we have yours.